2010 cars. Good to see them being put to serious use. And as I say, it's good for the boys as well. I don't mean that patronizingly, but in an era where we have so little testing, it's very frustrating, I think, for a lot of the race team, stroke test team, as it used to be, not to have outings. And although I think when you're not at an event like this, and you're away in Europe perhaps, and remote from what's going on, it may seem innocuous, a promo event like this. But of course, when you're actually here, and you see the face on that little boy there, and you see the crowd and the enthusiasm around 2010 Lotus F1 cars, you see that there is this different world out there. Typically, most teams run two cars, one as a spare, because what you cannot afford to do when you are putting on any sort of public demonstration is, well, you try never to have any issues that prevent the day from going ahead. Of course, one can have a shunt, as we saw in Venezuela with Pastor Maldonado, but even that kind of worked for the fans. They hadn't seen a shunt before in real life, and they saw one on home ground. Hopefully that won't happen today. But so the days of the spare car ironically return in the era in which testing is so limited, in which to reduce costs. And there's the two-seater, of course, over there. Looks a bit odd, but I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun for certain passengers. Count me out on that one. The concept of actually not really being able to see directly in front of you is not one that I embrace at all. And lots of normal motor racing type expressions and walking around. There's James Deacon, my co-host.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Manila.
Basically what's happening here is we were supposed to launch the cars at exactly 9 o'clock to celebrate what we call Kilometer Zero, which is a central point of Manila, and it's being relaunched by the Department of Tourism. Marlon Stockinger will be actually the face of Kilometer Zero. That obviously hasn't happened, but we're just waiting on some technical issues, and it's nothing to do with the cars. The cars have been ready to run since this morning. It's actually a few barrier issues. Some barriers didn't actually arrive, supposedly, and because safety is paramount, we're kind of just holding back a little bit. So we're building the excitement, I guess. That's probably the best way to put it right now. And you know, it's a good opportunity. It's nice and hot. It's a good opportunity to sell some soft drinks. I know Kilometer Zero is where everything is measured from Manila. It's where our national hero was executed, and we have a monument there. It's called Rizal Park, and that's everything starts from there. So when you ever say Manila is 143 kilometers away on a street sign somewhere in the highway, they always refer to that point. All roads lead to that.
David Valsecchi arrives, 2012 GP2 champion, very professional, organized looking guy, very, very fast racing driver as well. And again, in this era of not enough seats, too many good drivers, Davide taking the next best option. And it's good, without wishing to harp on it too much, it's very good, I think, the way Lotus are running their driver program, and they're giving an opportunity to somebody like Davide, a real third drive. And you look at some teams out there and you think, if one of their main players was injured or couldn't race, how actually would they go with the third driver? Williams being quite a good example of that. But if Kimi or Roma for some reason couldn't race, you feel that with somebody like Davide, the team would be in pretty good hands. And I think that's the right way to run a third driver.
Hey.
Have a great day, eh? So Eric Boulier's arrived, and Patrick Louis. The main players have arrived indeed. And to me, this is what gives this event its gravitas. It's having Eric Boulier here, team principal. Again, I can't think of too many team principals that would do this trip to the Philippines, but he has. And I think it's because he met Marlon Stockinger at quite an early phase of his career a couple of years ago, and took the decision then that this was a guy who knew what he was talking about and could handle himself. And since then, they've been working on this Philippine project.
When we just start the car, and Marlon, we start to drive the car in the streets, people will not believe what they hear or what they see. And that's part of bringing F1 to the fan. And the biggest step for me, if you want to improve or to bring more passion, more followers, it's obviously Marlon, because he's today the only candidate in Philippines who can achieve Formula One, or who have the right to dream to achieve Formula One. I'm not saying this because he's sitting next to me, actually, because I'm quite tough normally. But he has the right maturity today. He's very quiet, calm, but also he's a racer, as you said before. We like to fight. He's obviously fast, and I think the challenge for him now is just to keep his head cool, because you can see today, when you're doing a junior category, you're racing on your own, and you have your own bike, and sometimes your father or your mother helping you with your helmet. But as soon as you touch Formula One, you fill up rooms like this with journalists. So this is very important for him to keep his head cool and just focus on his own job. And when he will fly back to Europe, I don't know, Monday or Sunday, he has to switch off F1 and go back to his normal racing life.
It's quite cool because literally where we had the event here for the road show, I grew up actually 10 minutes down the road on Manila Bay in a nice little flat with my parents, and it's just been it seemed so far at the time, because when I was growing up I really knew nothing about motorsport, and it was actually my father who got me into racing. He started racing go-karts here in the Philippines as a hobby, basically. I think he had a deal with his buddy and they were having a couple drinks, and basically he said, whatever you're gonna do, I'll do it too, and they decided on go-karts, and I guess the rest is history, because the minute they put me in one, I was hooked and I wanted to be a racing driver.
How did you make the break to Europe? At what stage of your life did you start coming to Europe?
I came as a teenager to Europe. I was about 16 or 17. The first championship I ever entered in Europe was actually the 2-liter Formula Renault UK Championship. I think it was in 2009. And I did my first full European or British campaign then.
And your dad's Swiss.
Yes.
But let's just talk a little bit about that. He lives and works in the Philippines and has done all your life, right?
Yeah, I mean, he came to the Philippines about 23, 24 years ago. And he stayed here ever since, you know. So at this point, you can even call him a Filipino. He's been here the rest of his life, and most of my family are based here. And yeah, it's been quite nice. Like, there's more and more of us hybrids in a way. But it's simply because we have a lot of overseas Filipino workers who actually leave the country and are working, and of course they settle in the new countries that they go into, whether it's in Europe, whether it's other parts of Asia. So it's not strange to have that, but also I think it's something that people here, at least even the locals themselves, they accept you. I mean, if they know you're born here, you're raised here, to them you're a Filipino. So we're all really nice in that way, in that sense of our culture. And
you've always raced and felt as a Filipino?
Yes, I've always had the Philippine flag on my suit, on my helmet. I wear the flag very proudly, and I'm very proud to represent the country.
And what languages do you speak?
For sure Tagalog, the national language of the Philippines, and English, of course, because I grew up in a house where we all spoke English. It was just easier for my mother and father. And I'd like to think I like to speak Italian or French, and of course Swiss German and German, but this is just the little bits just to get by in Europe, you know, the necessities, of course, in ordering food or stuff like this.
Now, it's a brilliant thing that A, you have the LotusF1 deal, and B, that they're here starting to look at the potential of the Philippines. You know the country well, you know the economy. Can they do it? Can they come up with a budget that would enable you to do what you need to do?
I hope we've raised enough awareness after this event. Of course, it's the first time. I mean, we're a very new country in terms of, you know, building our modern day motorsport image. but we've always been very much a part of motorsport even since the beginning. I mean, we've had greats like Dodgy Laurel, who won the Macau Grand Prix twice and was actually, I think, on his way to win his third, but unfortunately died, and actually driven a Lotus car at the time as well. So we have a history of motorsport. I just think we never got the chance. So hopefully this roadshow, this event, the Lotus F1 team getting behind me and coming here to the Philippines all the way across Europe to support me, hopefully it shows to the people that it just takes only a little bit more. I mean, I think the door's been as wide open as ever, as it has been in our history of motorsport. So hopefully we can capitalize on it.
I don't know. I don't think anyone knows, least of all those involved, can tell whether or not this will pay off, whether or not a Filipino driver will make it to Formula One as a result of what we've seen this weekend, as a result of the energy and the effort that's been put in to make this happen. But I tell you what, A, it's been a fun weekend, and I think a lot of locals have had a lot of fun. And B, you don't try, you never know. And for me, in a difficult economic climate, at a difficult time for motor racing in general, and Formula One's not isolated from that, and we see more and more teams having to rely on drivers to bring money in order to survive, in order to go racing, it's completely logical to work with a country which happens to have a driver on the way up, which isn't yet on the Formula One map, and to try to make it happen. And that's what this has been all about. Good luck to them.